How would you know if you could climb a wall if you've never tried?
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan, here to break down all the reasons why Madam Web is not only great, but also the start of Sony's incredible Spider-Verse franchise that is sure to eclipse the MCU.
More like the MC who?
Now, I know what you're all thinking. Didn't we cover this movie enough? We did 2 Easter egg breakdowns, an ending explained, a video on why Kang is behind Ezekiel Sims, a podcast speculating on what's next, and of course, all of our theory videos on how Madam Web is going to interact with other fan favorites like Morbius and Vulture. But today we just want to go through and point out all of the truly amazing details in this film that make it stand apart from literally every other movie ever made. I think back to the iconic moment when we were first introduced to Madam Web, the trailer.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
That line's going to go down as one of the most important moments in cinema history, so we decided to commemorate it for 1 week only at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com. So to get your "He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders just before she died" shirt, while you still can, visit our merch store with the link below, because after a week, they are all gone. Shopping our merch store is the best way for you to directly support our channel. Thank you guys for watching. I cannot wait to celebrate Madam Web with you.
Yes! Let's celebrate!
Now, the first image in the movie is a web to foreshadow how they will all be connected by her web at the end of the movie. And get this, the main character's name is also Webb, Cassie Webb. So when Ezekiel opens up his umbrella here, notice how his accent changes in his first 2 lines.
Do you think we're close?
And in the second line, his lips don't even have to move.
I agreed to provide security for you because I thought you were close to finding the spider.
Yeah, this movie was made by grown-ups.
Now, remember, this movie is about the multiverse. Madam Web can see possible futures, which means that she can see different timelines. So remember, Morbius ended with this epic post-credit scene, right?
I think a bunch of guys like us should team up.
That scene teased a villain team-up or a Sinister Six movie.
A Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man? Awesome!
Exactly. So when Sony finally assembles that incredible Sinister Six movie that we're all so pumped about, Madam Web is going to be the key to holding it all together. She can bring in all of these different spider people from other universes into one universe and then combine them onto one team. It is her web that holds this entire Sonyverse together. So don't forget that, everyone. The entire Sony Spider-Verse hinges on Madam Web. So then the scientist in this scene, Cassie's mom, uses this opportunity to explain to him exactly why they are there.
Dead specimens show that the peptides in the spider's venom, they supercharge their cellular structure.
Now, this is an interesting choice for the filmmakers. You could assume that the 2 of them have actually been in the jungle together for a while. So when she tells him this information, a lot of people would think that he would already know this information.
Well, then why is she repeating this crucial information to him at this exact time? And by the way, why are they there?
Well, because, Doug, this is actually telling the audience that information.
Oh.
Yes, this is a very old dramatic technique called exposition. It's when the characters explain something to one another so the audience can learn that information too. So if you look closely throughout the film, you're going to find a lot of hidden exposition in this movie.
They used exposition in Shakespeare.
Now notice that when she says,
She's trying her best to keep me from working.
At this point, we, the audience, are thinking, oh no, this lady hates her baby.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This sounds like this lady hates her baby.
Yeah, exactly. Now we think this lady hates her unborn child. Not a nice lady at all. So later, when Cassie thinks that her mom cared more about spiders than her,
Hope the spiders were worth it, Mom.
we're going to look back and say, yes, Cassie's mom sure did hate her unborn child, and that's why she was frivolously wasting her time in the Amazon. Now, all through the movie, Maddie keeps talking about how she gets hangry.
Anybody else starving?
In fact, they even spoofed the famous line from the Hulk.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You know, when she says,
You will not like me when I'm hangry.
and that is what's called an Easter egg.
Oh, very interesting.
It even becomes kind of a funny running gag.
And I told you guys that you wouldn't like
you if you were hangry.
And you know, guys, I can actually relate to Maddie here. I don't get that hangry, but I did used to snack like all the time. When work would get really stressful on busy days, I would constantly stress eat or pop these menthol cough drops till I got a headache from it. But now I replace that bad, gross habit with a positive one by using Fume. They're the sponsor of this video.
Is that a vape?
No, buddy, this is not a vape. It is not electronic, and it does not have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors to create natural flavored air. I recently started Crisp Mint, and it freshens my breath.
Smells very nice.
Thanks. You see, Fume uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. It's the perfect way to turn around a bad habit that you're just not happy with. Plus, it has adjustable airflow and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers something to do, which for me is very helpful for calming my anxiety. They also just launched the Fume Base. Now, this is a sleek magnetic stand to rest your Fume on, so you never lose track of it. Fume makes switching easy and even fun. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from their more than 150,000 customers who have used Fume to change their lives. So head to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush and use the code ScreenCrush to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with your choice of 3 or 6 unique cores and everything you need to finally be free of your bad habit. That's tryfum.com and use the code ScreenCrush to save an additional 10% off your order today. So back to the Amazon. Cassie's mom finds a spider in the Amazon and she is happy. And at this point we're thinking, all right, she got the spider. But then, dramatically, this moment is reversed when Ezekiel shoots her. And notice how everyone afterwards runs away, but this person in the distance chooses to trot.
But shouldn't they run away from gunfire really fast?
Well, yes, except maybe this is probably Deadpool, because he hops around the multiverse. And don't forget, everyone, that's really what this movie is setting up, that the Sony Marvel movies are basically part of the MCU, but they're just over to the side.
Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
Now, in this moment, we do get a crucial bit of villain backstory.
No one helped me when my family was starving. My road was not as clear as yours.
Wow, it sounds like he has a really relatable backstory.
He sure does, and this is the hallmark of all great comic book movie villains. Killmonger, Loki, Malekith. You have to have a relatable backstory. But the genius of Madam Web is we never actually have to find out exactly what his backstory is. We just get hints about it throughout the film.
I came from nothing, less than nothing.
And that is just as good as finding out information. And all through this scene, notice the umbrella is still in the background. After murdering Cassie's mom, Ezekiel flees, and he is such a badass that even though they are in the middle of the jungle in the Amazon studying spiders, he chooses to run away instead of taking any of these trucks or jeeps. Then Cassie's mom is taken by the spider people, she gives birth, and the movie smash cuts to Cassie in modern day.
And that shows us that they are the same person.
That's right. Now, Dakota Johnson is, and I don't have to tell you this, Hollywood royalty. Her parents are Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, and in this film, she draws from that ancestral power of act to make a bold, dramatic choice. From this point on in the film, she will never express any emotion except for boredom and disinterest.
Ben, what are you even doing back there?
That was the best take of that line. She was paid $5 million for this role, and I don't think there's a single actor in Hollywood that could have given a performance like this one.
The average annual salary for a teacher is $49,000 a year.
Now right here, we see a blockbuster video.
Hey, those don't exist anymore.
Well, that's because this movie takes place in the past.
Oh.
And notice how in this ambulance scene, Cassie and Ben make sure to say each other's names out loud.
Cassie, I lost the pulse. I'm starting compressions now.
Ben, what are you even doing back there?
That's a thing that people do, Ryan Airy from ScreenCrush.
It sure is, Doug the manager, but this is also telling the audience who these people are.
That's more of that clever exposition that you were talking about.
You're catching on, buddy. Ben also uses exposition to tell us that he was in the military and that he now lives in Queens.
You know, last time I was in a vehicle driven like this, I was being shot at.
I wouldn't want you to be homesick for the army.
Never thought I'd be this happy to be back in Queens.
Now notice something here though. Even though the ambulance is in a hurry and there's somebody dying in the back, they don't put the siren on until Maddie gives Cassie the finger.
Who flips off an ambulance?
Now this is foreshadowing later in the movie when Cassie will once again drive an ambulance, but next time she's going to use a siren. Now at the hospital, Sydney Sweeney's character gives Cassie an ordinary piece of paper, but Cassie says,
Can't even fold it. It's like cardboard.
but look close guys, that's actually just an ordinary piece of paper, but Dakota Johnson was able to draw on the power of act to pretend that it was cardboard. Man, Mountain Dew sounds good right now.
Mountain Dew is a Pepsi product.
Pepsi, God, I love Pepsi. Gotta have it, choice of a new generation for those who feel young, am I right? Now, Cassie's fortune here is blank.
You will.
Now this is another bit of clever foreshadowing because soon she's going to be able to see the future and then rewrite what's going to happen to her. So this fortune is actually a way of showing us that soon she's going to be able to fill in the blanks of the future for herself because the fortune is blank, and that means that she can see the future later in the movie. You see the way she feeds the cat?
Oh yeah, that's nice.
That means that we like her.
Us strays need to stick together.
That was the best take of that line. Now, in this scene, she looks at the drawing the kid did of his family, and this makes Cassie think of her family, so she goes to this box of mementos of her mom. And so, this is reconnecting us with that clever prologue. We already know that Cassie was born in a cave, but here we learn that the Peruvian spider tribe also got her a birth certificate and packed up all of her mom's things, including her plane ticket. Now, notice that when Cassie has a near-death experience, she sees the same threads of the web that we'll see a little later in the movie. Notice how this looks a little like the timelines we see in the MCU films, because these threads are essentially possible universes. Cassie Webb is a nexus being, someone who can affect the flow of time and split themselves into different universes.
Wow.
That's right. Sony has successfully set her up to be the linchpin of their own multiverse saga, and I'm sure she'll be a crucial character in epic team-up films like Avengers Hidden Wars and the Kang Dynasty. Now, when she sees this thread, she actually sees the possible futures from later in the movie. The balloon popping at the party, the bird hitting the window, and part of the Pepsi sign. Yes, Pepsi.
You know, there's so much Pepsi in this movie, it's getting to where I think of Pepsi and Madam Web as having the same level of quality.
Me too. I deeply associate Pepsi with Madam Web. Then we go to one of my favorite scenes where Ezekiel successfully seduces a woman from the National Security Agency at the opera. Now, his plan was to sit next to this woman, charm her, sleep with her, and then use his powers to get her passcodes.
Well, what if she didn't find him attractive?
The multiverse. So, when he sleeps with her, we see visions of these 3 girls as Spider Women in the future.
No way, so that's gonna happen?
Heck yeah, we will definitely see these Spider Women in Madam Web 2 or Avengers Classified Wars. And then Ezekiel explains the stakes to this woman and the audience.
I'm gonna be murdered one day.
Now notice how in this scene, Ezekiel's audio dramatically changes.
Every night, the same vision. It's a curse.
That happens because of multiverse.
Multiverse.
At the cookout, Cassie struggles to open a can of delicious Pepsi and offers some helpful advice on grilling.
Yeah, they're ruined now.
And at the party, they play this fun game where everybody writes down a fond memory of their mom on one piece of paper. But Cassie did something different.
Whose is this? Well, my mother actually died in childbirth.
Well, why didn't she just not play the game?
Well, this was to show us another blank piece of paper, like the fortune cookie, Pepsi. Also notice, guys, this is Mary Parker, Peter Parker's mom.
It is?
Yes, and she's actually pregnant with baby Peter Parker right now.
Oh, thank goodness he's a fetus and not already Spider-Man. That'd be so boring.
Also, earlier we talked about Ezekiel having a relatable backstory. Now, his helper is played by Zosha Mamet, a very good actor and the daughter of David Mamet. Notice how that she seems reluctant to hunt down teenagers.
I didn't know we'd be targeting teenagers.
They're teenagers now.
Now that never comes up again, but she did briefly hesitate to murder children.
Find them. I pay you a fortune.
This gives her character dimension. After Cassie's strange premonition, she goes to see a doctor.
Oh, she goes to see an eye doctor?
Actually, according to the credits, this is an OBGYN and not an eye doctor. An OBGYN who has eye charts in her office. After this visit, Cassie is discouraged, and she lets us know this by talking to the TV.
Hate to break it to you, Scrooge, but you can't change anything.
Now, A Christmas Carol is famously a movie about a man learning to change his future, just like Cassie. It's an amazing coincidence that it happens to be on TV when it's not even Christmas time. And then the girls all happen to converge on Grand Central Station while Ezekiel is also conveniently right outside because multiverse.
Multiverse.
So now, this sequence on the train is, for my money, the one down spot in this movie. I thought the editing was a little jarring and did too good of a job placing me in Cassie's shoes. And frankly, seeing Ezekiel use spider powers just reminded me of Spider-Man, and I don't need to see that in a movie.
Ugh, Spider-Man. Wake me up when it's Morbin time.
Now, when Cassie puts the kids in a cab, I thought the way these teenage girls stayed with the stranger was totally organic, and there's no way they would have broken the windows out of the cab or even just walked away. Everyone has such great chemistry that you immediately feel that they are all indeed connected to her web. Later, Cassie leaves them in the woods and then uses her powers to get in and out of Manhattan and Queens traffic inside of 3 hours.
3 hours, okay?
Back at her house, she reads to her cat because cats cannot read.
I used to work at a charity where I read to cats.
Now, back at the diner, the girls decide to do a normal teenage girl activity, dance sexy on a table in a public place. But then this guy has a newspaper about the kidnapping, and it's a special edition of the Daily Bugle that was apparently printed and distributed on the same day like it's in the 1930s.
Daily Bugle? Like from Spider-Man?
The one and the same, buddy. Cassie races toward the diner and cuts off this truck to turn. Now, this gains her a crucial partial fraction of a second that she would have lost if she just turned from behind the truck. And this next scene is where Cassie and the girls really start to bond.
You're a good teacher.
Oh, I see. They like each other now.
That's right, and a few seconds later, Cassie leaves them to go to Peru, and she's able to find the exact spot where her mom died using a hand-drawn map and a photograph. Luckily, this is a part of the jungle where trees don't grow, and this tree looks exactly the same as it does in the photograph from 30 years earlier. When the Peruvian people teach Cassie her origin, notice this is also the Norn Cave where Thor had his visions in Avengers The Dark Ultron, proving once and for all that Madam Web is in very much the same universe as near the MCU. The moment where Cassie learns how to use her powers is truly triumphant. The CGI spectacle is really, it's just, Doug, I can't do, I'm sorry, I can't. And then, with the girls in peril, Cassie triumphantly learns how to split her astral form, teasing that she can exist in multiple realities at once, and Ezekiel lets her do this before he is finally beaten by a delicious, tasty sign of Pepsi. And then the girls use the CPR to bring her back to life.
That was foreshadowing from earlier they did.
You're a good teacher.
That's right. Now, when Ben says he likes being an uncle because of no responsibility, Cassie says,
That's what he thinks.
Because the parents are going to die. Hilarious!
Afterwards, we were treated to a little bit of foreshadowing of the future. Madam Web working with 3 spider women to protect the city. Now, I'm really glad we got to see this entire movie of backstory instead of just another boring superhero movie with 3 spider women doing like superhero things like stopping crime and fighting and action and stuff like that. So when they now make that Spider-Woman movie, we'll really appreciate it even more because we know what these characters were like when they were teenagers. As long as Spider-Man never appears in any of these movies, I'll be watching. Excelsior.
Excelsior!
Well guys, that's just why Madam Web is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. If you have any thoughts or any questions, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.